What's going on, everybody? We are back with another brand new episode of the Trifecta. Joined with me, as always, is Tommy Smith and Tyrone Stallworth. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. How about
Doing
you?
good, man.
I am doing good. I'm a little bit tired today than usual. The gym's starting to kick my ass. I've been going pretty consistently, so I think it's starting to catch up.
Hey, man, money don't sleep, so neither should you.
Listen,
Do you like me throwing that one in there? I thought that was good.
I love it. I love it.
Ty must be so proud.
I love it. We're gonna put that on the shirt.
If you can touch one soul a day, you know you've accomplished something.
Man,
You know what's funny is we're not even fun. Is I never realized how much of an impact Kobe actually had on my life until the other day. Because growing up, I was always like an Allen Iverson fan, a Paul Pierce fan, and all my friends were Kobe fans. And so the other day, I was listening to a couple of motivational things on YouTube, thanks to Ty, and a Kobe video popped up, and I was listening to it, and there was one line that he said that resonated with me more than anything. And like I said it as my phone wallpaper was, "We wake up every day to be better than we were yesterday." And when I heard that, I got chills. It was crazy. I listened to it at least 10 times. Like I have that quote set as the wallpaper on my phone, so I wake up to that quote every morning. And it's just channeling that Mamba mentality is
For sure.
it's been huge.
you got to.
So
It's the only way to live now.
exactly. Anyway, so we do have some things to discuss before we get into the fun stuff of talking about sports movies. Obviously, with the recent shooting of Jacob Blake, a lot of professional athletes and teams decided to protest and boycott by sitting out their games. And I just wanted to extend that regardless of what the players decide, I stand with them. I understand what their sentiment is. Jaylen Brown brought up a great point the other day, and it was if we do stop playing basketball, if we do stop playing in this bubble, when you go home, are you just going to sit on the couch and not do anything, or are you going to actually try to fight for change? And Jaylen Brown was one of the few guys that was out there actually fighting and protesting and leading marches with people when the George Floyd protests were at their peak. Enes Kanter was one of them. Donovan Mitchell, Giannis. So to name a few of those players. So with their decision to continue playing, I support it. But I also understood why there was a lot of, I want to say, back and forth about deciding whether or not to continue the playoffs for the NBA. And I love that it extended to the MLB, it extended to the NHL, it even extended as far as the NFL with just practices and scrimmage games.
Yeah.
So what are your guys' thoughts on that? Ty, you go first.
I like it. I like the fact that they're standing up for something. I think Fred VanVleet said, we gotta put our nuts on the line. So if you're gonna go, you gotta go all the way. So I support it. If basketball is shut down, I won't cry too bad. Yeah, man, I say full throttle. I know for me, I'm tired of seeing violent acts on TV against my brothers, black people in general. Like that's not normal at all to constantly see these things. Like I actually don't watch the video that after I think it was Trayvon Martin. I haven't like actively watched those videos because no need to keep watching them. So it's like you got to stand up for something because it's not normal, man. For real.
No, yeah, for sure. And I think, I made this comment when the whole pandemic and everything happened is, it took a while, but once everybody started to see that, sports were being taken away, we have, no March Madness and all that stuff, they finally started to take things seriously. And if that's what it takes, the NBA, the WNBA, the MLB, the NHL, even like you said, NFL teams canceling practices, like if that's what it takes to, have an eye-opening experience for people, across the country, then, props to the players for taking that stance because, as fans and as supporters of these teams, we have to understand that, these players are just humans too. They're just normal people, just like me and you at the end of the day. And so if they can stand for something, everybody else should too.
And that was, one of the comments I had made the the other day on a show with Ty and Randy. I was saying, so Randy had brought up a question about LeBron, and he goes, is LeBron far too out there? Is he like crossing the line with how vocal he is? I said, no. You can't put a line on somebody's feelings, right? Like, we tend to look at athletes as their own like class, and because we turn to them for entertainment to get away from the real world, we forget that they're humans too. They have opinions. They have opinions on politics like you and I. They have their opinions on everything, and they are allowed to express it however they want, and they shouldn't be penalized or told to shut up and dribble for their opinion. They should be allowed to speak their mind. And so, like you guys said, it's especially what you just said, Tommy, where if them taking away their sport again has to become the catalyst to promote some sort of change, then that's what they have to do. And I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, no, and for sure, I think that the biggest thing is, I always learn, like, if you have a voice, what's the point of having one if you're not going to use it? Like, stand up for what you believe in. Whether you disagree or not, that's for someone else. That's for you to decide. But if you have a voice and you have something that you believe in or that you want to fight for, there's no point to not fight for it if you really want to see some new change.
Exactly.
Yes, sir. I mean, that's what America is all about anyway. That First Amendment. So why not use it as a weapon to, invoke change,
For sure.
And all of us on this call were journalists to some degree, and that's what it is, right? Is the First Amendment is number one, and it's number one for a reason. But anyway, enough about that. We wanted to bring a quick awareness to that for our viewers, and to kind of just put out a statement that we are in support of the players and the athletes and the teams and the coaches that are, using their platforms to kind of try to promote and push for change. But today we have a fun episode. We are going to be talking strictly sports movies. We're not going to be talking about what happened with the Bruins or the Pacers. We're not going to be talking about any of that. We're talking sports movies and sports movies only. So for anybody watching or tuning in late, feel free to comment a couple of movies that you guys like. We'll try to get to them. But I'm going to let Tommy lead off with his first movie.
Ooh, that's a tough one. You got to start me off good. My favorite one of all movies has to be Invincible. It's a movie about Vince Papale, played by Mark Wahlberg.
Hey, a Boston guy.
Of course.
That's like me.
A football player who, Mark Wahlberg in the movie, he gets, based on a true story. Sorry, I should say that first. He goes to this bar and, he's just kind of, your normal guy. And he's always been a good football player, but never didn't play high school, didn't play college ball. Gets signed at an open tryout by the Philadelphia Eagles. And, it's just kind of the story of how he becomes, this kind of underdog story that you want to root for, kind of almost Rudy-like, I'd say. Not to the point of that, but, no team ever does tryouts anymore in the NFL. And so for a player at that age and at that to not have like any experience, it's a really great story. I think it's really well acted. Elizabeth Banks is in the movie. Just a very enjoyable story, and it's easily my top sports movie.
I have such a soft spot for that movie. So as a Patriots fan now, I hate the Eagles, but before the Super Bowl that Nick kicked our butt, I always had a soft spot for them. Donovan McNabb was one of my favorite quarterbacks growing up, and I always just liked the color scheme of that team. But when I watched that movie, I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, Mark Wahlberg's from Boston, he's playing for the Eagles. And so as a kid, that movie was so exceptional, and it was a lot of fun to watch. The storytelling was great. I think the script was awesome, and I liked the little subtle humor where, the love interest would send like Giants gear to the locker room for him. And I always saw the teammates like giving them dirty looks. So I just thought that was funny.
I haven't seen it. I got it.
You haven't seen that? Oh man, that hurts, man. That's such a great movie. It's one of those where you can sit down and just enjoy it for the history and the movies that I love the most are the ones that you want to go research more after it, and to be able to research more about this guy and like his story and like where he comes from and all that stuff is just it's a really cool thing.
So, Ty, what about you? What's your number one?
My number one is Space Jam. I gotta go Space Jam. You know, the opening song, I Believe I Can Fly. You know, classic. Just to set the mood right. And then the fact that I watched it a couple weeks ago, and it actually parallels his journey from the time period where he retired, and then players were kind of like, oh, now he's washed up, he's a baseball player now. So the same thing happens in the movie, which is actually great, which is genius about the movie, right? And then the Monstars, love the Monstars. The fact that they had Charles Barkley and some Patrick Ewing, they actually had them acting in the movie. I thought that was great.
Larry Bird was in it too.
Yeah, Larry Bird, Muggsy Bogues, like all of these guys, they were really acting. You feel me? So that was cool. And then the last dance actually went into the fact that he had a training camp and would just bring guys in and practice and play. And I just thought that was amazing behind the scenes. Behind the scenes work. Like I didn't think that he was really playing basketball like that while playing Space Jam. So that was pretty cool to learn. But yeah, man, Michael Jordan's the GOAT.
For sure.
Space Jam is just a masterpiece. Bugs Bunny. Like, name a better duo than MJ and Bugs Bunny. Like, I can't right now.
LeBron and Bugs Bunny seems like what's going for now.
I actually think so. I'm gonna get crucified for this real fast, but
oh no, don't.
Nah, hold up. I love Space Jam. It's one of my favorite movies. But I have a bet with my friend Sarah. So shout out to Sarah Wood. I have a bet with her that Space Jam 2 is actually going to be better than Space Jam 1.
Bro.
And hold on, hear me out. It's not going to be better because of the movie itself. It's going to be better because there's so much more technology we have now to make better CGI, to have a better script, to have a lot more in the movie. Plus, the cast list that LeBron has gathered for that movie is really impressive.
Yeah.
You sound like somebody who would say the same thing about the new Star Wars movies.
Listen,
come on, man. New technology.
They weren't bad, but they weren't great.
They've been saying that for years, bro. I get you. I know. I get where you're coming from, but sometimes, man, the classics should just be left alone. Yeah. Like they shouldn't do another Back to the Future. Like they shouldn't do.
I'm not disagreeing with that. All I'm saying is I believe because it's happened. I didn't think Space Jam ever needed a second one.
They really didn't. Like it's a time capsule movie. Like
right,
Space Jam, and you know what era of TV.
Oh, yeah.
But because we are getting one, I believe that the new one is going to be better. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe it's just my personal I'm just bias, not the biggest fan of LeBron, and I mean Michael Jordan, but I don't. It almost seems like he's like continuing to try and chase him. Everything that Michael did, he's got to do in the same way. Like in 5 years, we'll get a Last Dance with LeBron too, or something. Yeah, which I'd be interested to watch.
I mean, called the second to last dance.
Yeah, exactly. Not 5, not 6, not 7.
Oh, but no, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like with a whole new script and a different story, I think there's just so much potential for the movie. And I'm not even talking about the LeBron standpoint, just the fact that Klay Thompson's in it, Damian Lillard supposedly is going to be in it. There's just a really big cast of great basketball players that are going to be in the movie. And I think that's going to make it, because I really think what it's going to end up being is LeBron and his team, like Team LeBron versus the Toon Squad or whatever, or some crazy thing like that. But I mean, I have no idea, but we have $50 bet on this. So
$50.
Yeah.
Oh, so what are you basing it off of? IMDb rating or like personal rating or
reviews and ratings. We're not doing our own personal feelings because that'd be too hard. Be able to shoot. I think the old one's better. I think the new one's better. So if the ratings for the new one are better, I win. If the ratings for the new one are older, I'm confident.
Really confident. Yeah, $50.
I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you why I'm confident. Whether or not it's actually better or not, I really believe that the reviews and the and everything like that and the ratings are going to be better because so many younger kids look up to LeBron as a basketball player. There's such a like obviously Michael Jordan inspired generations of people, right? But LeBron has inspired more generations because he's been in the league longer. He kind of went up as the millennials grew up. So everyone grew up watching LeBron. And so the people who are going to be seeing that movie are going to be the LeBron fans.
I don't know. So, I watched the new Power Rangers and it kind of flopped, bro.
I didn't even know there was a new Power Ranger.
Oh boy, yes, it's not very good. Don't go out and look for it, man.
I was always a Ninja Turtles guy.
I don't know, man.
I was always a Ninja Turtles guy, never much on the Power Rangers.
Yeah, those new ones aren't very good either.
No. But so for my first movie, I gotta go with Remember the Titans. That movie is a classic all the way around. The acting is just absolutely phenomenal. The storytelling and the fact it's one of those movies that was made in the 80s or the 70s. And
2000.
Was it made in 2000? Really?
Yeah, 2000.
Oh no, it was made in 2000. Based in the 80s, I believe.
Yeah. 71, I think. It's like 1970s or something like that. But yeah.
Something like that. But yeah, so that movie is one of those movies that's like the timepiece it's set in the 70s or the whatever, and it relates to stuff going on now. It is relating to stuff that we are experiencing now in 2020, and it's such a powerful movie because if everybody was able to just, look at how this team overcame a lot of the, I want to say like the racial bias and the racism and stuff like that, and how they took and handled everything. It's such a heartfelt movie that it is a perfect movie in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh no, I for sure agree.
Can't argue with that one. My favorite lines and moments in the movie is when the linebackers, they yell strong side, left side. That's the best scene in the movie because it really, symbolized them coming together and actually, getting that team on track because they were fighting each other. They were actually like embracing in their brotherhood. So yeah, man.
And like the fact that it was based off a true story too is even more impressive.
Yeah.
Denzel Washington. Oh my God.
But I mean, like, even like, the dancing scene, when they're all dancing in the locker room, it's like, football is a brotherhood, man. I mean, every sport's a brotherhood, but football is such a, you're so in tight with all those guys and it's a huge roster and stuff. And it's just like for them to be able to get all along and like enjoy it and just like, show the human side of sports. Like that's one of my favorite scenes in all the movies. You want to know what's sad though? I just looked up. It has a 48% on Metacritic.
What?
I have actually never liked Metacritic. The only one I ever really use is Rotten Tomatoes when I look for reviews.
That's fair.
Metacritic's always been awful with everything.
Oh yeah, for sure. I just think it's interesting how much of a how different the IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes of like 7.1 and 72% from 48%.
Yeah, right. But there was one cool thing I did like about Remember the Titans, though, and I'll tell you, is that when they were kind of doing that montage scene where they were going over like the 5-0, 6-0, like how their record was improving, they were actually using footage from the real game, and I thought that was the coolest thing.
That was dope.
So Tommy went first with number 1, so I'm gonna let Ty go first with number 2.
All right, bet. Let me see. I don't have my list in order, so now I have to play the picking game.
Hey, you don't have to do it in any order. It's not your number 1 favorite. It's just your whatever one you want to talk about next.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna, continue with the basketball thing with mine and go Coach Carter, man. Again, a movie based on a true story. It's another juggernaut with Samuel L. Jackson. it taught about a lot of responsibility, and not only that, it spotlighted the coaches. Like coaches don't get enough credit for actually teaching, men life lessons, or women life lessons, right? So that was great. Like there was a scene in the movie where a player's mother begged the coach, Samuel Jackson begged Coach Carter to let her son back on the basketball team because he didn't have anything else. And I just thought that was just a powerful moment because, without that coach, that kid would have been somewhere else, man, farther down in life. And then the players actually got a chance to go to college just based off of their basketball skills, and it was dope. It was really relatable. I felt like.
No, yeah, for sure. I think like the best scene, I'm a sucker for the underdog kind of story and the people who never quit. That's kind of been my mantra. The scene where he's like, you didn't do it. You didn't give me enough push-ups. Like you're still a few suicides and stuff. And the rest of the team comes in and says, no, like we've seen him working his ass off to get to this spot. Like we want to help him. And they start doing the stuff for him. That's just, playing sports, in youth and like knowing how close I was to some of my teammates and stuff like that, knowing that at the end of the day, those are my brothers on the field. We're going to go into battle with them, like that's just such a great story for that scene, but overall in the whole movie, like, just never quit and, just keep going.
I thought Samuel L. Jackson's performance in that movie was top tier, like absolutely top tier. One of the best performances that personally I think he's ever had.
Not better than Mace Windu, though. Nobody beats my man Mace Windu. I mean, this dude carried around a purple lightsaber. Like, come on.
I don't know, man. Samuel Jackson, all his plays were of his sisters. Like,
Yes.
He was like, I met this one girl, and they always got a sister. I mean, sisters. So it was great, man.
Oh, so Tommy, what about you? What's number 2 for you?
Oh man. So if you know me, I am a huge professional wrestling fan. Something that I've followed for too long.
Sure.
But the biggest thing, or the next movie for me would be Foxcatcher. It's about Olympic wrestling. It's based on a true story. John DuPont is DuPont is a very well-known name in history. It's played by Steve Carell, and he invites Channing Tatum's character to come to his estate and form an Olympic team. And he invites his brother, Channing Tatum's brother, who's played by Mark Ruffalo, to kind of coach the team. And it's kind of like the downfall of what happens in that real story. So I don't want to spoil it, but if you have seen The Office and you know how Steve Carell can be that funny guy, the way he turns it up to 10 to switch to this kind of guy that is just scary, man. I mean, like the dude plays this part so well to where he's just like, it's almost like he shows up in a shot and it's just like, holy hell, where'd you come from? Or he just plays this with like this menacing character. And then Mark Ruffalo is great. Channing Tatum puts in one of the best performances of his career. I think, kind of seeing the downward spiral of what happens in his life and how it gets to that point is really interesting. Overall, I mean, the wrestling is nothing special, but if you want to watch a really good story with some of the best character work I've ever seen, I would highly recommend Foxcatcher.
That cast list sounds really impressive.
Yeah.
Impressive. Just from Steve Carell, Channing Tatum, and Mark Ruffalo alone. Yeah. That's impressive. And Steve Carell's range is huge. Huge. And he is such an underrated actor, in my opinion. He's done Dinner for Schmucks was a great movie. I don't know if you guys ever seen that. Welcome to Marwin was incredible. I actually teared up at the end of that movie. I remember last semester in college, all my friends and I, we got together. We did a movie night, and then we picked a movie out of a hat, and that was the movie we picked because my friend Lauren had chosen it, and we were all like teared up crying like at the end of it. It was such an emotionally an emotional movie, but it was fantastic. But then Steve Carell on the other side can play these really funny characters,
Yeah.
and so his range is just absolutely incredible.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing is the fact that I have seen him in so many movies where he is this comedic actor. You know, he's playing to his strengths, and then he switches into this role where, like I said, he is this menacing character. And if you get the chance to watch it, I mean, you'll really see just how psychotic, you know, John DuPont, the real guy, was, and what happens in the story is just absolutely insane. And the way that the movie tells that story and how it gets to there is just. It's really well done, and it's something that I would strongly recommend to any sports fan or any movie fan.
Yeah,
I'll definitely have to check it out. I'm a big movie person. So my number 2, I'm going to talk about The Blind Side for a minute. So I'm back, just like Ty, I have back-to-back football movies. He had back-to-back basketball. The Blind Side is in my top 5 favorite movies of all time. Arguably, it could be top 3. I think that movie is absolutely incredible. For starters, I know a lot of people will say, well, Michael Orr didn't like the movie. Sure, that's fine. He doesn't have to. And the movie's based off his life. But when you think about it, right, it's so hard to do exactly what's based off of somebody's life, especially like a situation like his. So the Blind Side depicts a young Michael Orr, homeless, doesn't have anywhere to go, and Sandra Bullock's character Leanne Tui meets him due to her son, and they basically adopt him, bring him in, and they help raise him to become this great offensive lineman, and he was awesome. And the movie depicts Michael Orr as this kind of sad, very quiet, reserved kid. And one of the big qualms Michael Orr had with the film is that he's very bubbly and outgoing. But the movie would not have the same effect if that's how they portrayed him, in my opinion. I think portraying him as that kind of sad kid and like quiet and soft-spoken kid, I really think added to like the feel for that movie, right? But overall, the movie was pretty accurate to his life. There are a couple minor parts where he said that things were a little bit different, but overall the movie was pretty accurate. And I just think that the acting, I think Quentin Aaron was actually the best person to play Michael Orr. And fun fact, he played the young Michael Orr. He was older than Michael Orr was when he played that role.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But he looked a lot younger, like makeup and stuff, obviously. But then the other thing that really impressed me is Sandra Bullock. I mean, by far, leaps and bounds, one of my favorite actresses of all time. And the research she did for this role, she actually went and met the Tui family. And she became really good friends with them. They'd have dinner together, stuff like that, just so she could actually research the role and kind of what Leanne Tui was actually like. And so just the amount of effort and time that went into this movie was just so perfect. And I thought the acting was spot on. I could literally talk about this movie forever. So I'm gonna let one of you guys talk real quick.
Yeah, I agree. Sandra Bullock did a great job in that role. It wasn't a bad movie. Like, it was good. Like, the storyline was amazing, like you said. I do like the fact that, you know, family photos at the end of the movie were incorporated. Yeah, it was just a interesting insight on a player that, you know, normally wouldn't get the spotlight. Like, who cares about an offensive lineman? But they did a great job with. I felt like they did a great job with the movie. I kind of felt like it had a little bit too much of a Hollywood feel to it, but
yeah, I was gonna add in on that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna maybe ruffle some feathers here, but I'm actually not the biggest fan of this movie. I enjoy it, and I enjoyed it when I first saw it, but I feel like it plays to the Hollywood stereotypes a little bit too much. And that's not to say that, you know, Michael Orr's story is great. You know, to get where he is, you know, to even get to where he was to get to the NFL is beyond impressive. And those stories that, you know, other players that don't get highlighted like that have are just, you know, in the same manner. But I think it buys into the Hollywood factor a little bit too much for me. I didn't like oh man, who plays the dad? Tim McGraw. I
Yeah.
didn't like Tim McGraw as the dad. I don't know if that was kind of like, I mean, hey, maybe he was the best choice for the part, but I feel like there could have been other people that would have played a little bit better. But it's a good movie. Not something that I would say I like strongly dislike, but just I'm not on the bandwagon as much as some people are. I think it's, the fact that Michael Orr doesn't like it, and I know that he didn't have as much involvement as he wanted to. I think that's it's tough to make a true story when you don't have, the person that you're writing it about, there to kind of critique everything going on. I'm sorry, Jared. I know, like I said, I'm going to ruffle some feathers.
I'll give you that, but I still think the movie was phenomenal.
Yeah.
But you guys led off the 1 and 2, so I will start with number 3, and we're going to talk about the Rocky series. We'll include Creed in that, kind of because you could technically, if you really wanted to, Rocky is just one giant movie. It's not a series. It's just one long movie, and that's it. But I absolutely love Sylvester Stallone as Rocky Balboa. I think all those movies have a different feel to them. Again, like which one was it where he fought Mr. T? Was that 2 or 3? I'm trying to remember. And then
I think that was 3.
That was 3, okay. And then before he fought
Thunderlips.
And that those movies just are so motivational. They're so inspiring, and they'll never go out of style, especially for me. Like, I could literally marathon all the Rocky movies. And to touch upon Creed real quick, it's sort of like the quote-unquote continuation of Creed. It's based around Apollo Creed's son, who obviously we all know what happened to him. And so his son was growing up in kind of a rough neighborhood and kind of rough upbringing and was getting into trouble. And so he started to box. And, he went to Rocky and was like, I want you to teach me. And ended up, Rocky started teaching him, and he obviously became a great boxer. And I feel like it was one of Michael B. Jordan's best roles.
Yeah.
I consistently hear a lot of dislike for Michael B. Jordan.
From who? Who?
A lot of people don't.
Fruitvale Station. I mean,
Fruitvale Station. Okay, don't even get me started.
Panther?
I absolutely love that movie. That's the movie where a lot of people have had a problem with him. Was Black Panther, to be honest?
Nah, I loved him in Black
What?
Panther.
He's so good as Killmonger.
I thought he was great.
He was Killmonger. Like,
he's better than Chadwick Boseman in that movie, at least to me.
Yeah. Interesting thing, he actually, it took him a while to recover from that role, mentally. He said he was always angry and like, off to himself because he had to just foster that villain, essence.
Yeah.
So yeah, I loved him in that though.
He's great. I will say though, with the most conviction, that I really liked Creed 2 a lot better than Creed 1, which is crazy because like most of the time I will not like a sequel more than the original, but just the story behind the fight where like the dude that killed his dad, like he's fighting his son, and then the son like absolutely destroys Michael B. Jordan in the movie, and then he goes on that like long recovery, and he goes to like the desert and just starts exercising with like chains and stuff, and I'm like, this is like, that's motivation right there. And so I felt that I just really liked a lot of the scenes from that movie more. I liked the dialogue more. I liked the kind of the plot a little bit more than the first one.
I like the first one personally, but I think, another thing that we don't talk about enough is Tessa Thompson's character. Her acting in those movies. I mean, she's a great actress, but her acting in those movies is really well done. That kind of like, I don't want you to fight, but if you're going to, like, I understand. But the biggest thing for me is, as a movie fan, is, I like movies that are quotable, and I'll kind of hit on that in my next one. But I mean, throughout the Rocky series, there's just so many quotable moments. I mean, if he dies, he dies, or in Rocky Balboa, I think he says, you, me, and nobody is going to hit harder than life. It's not about how hard you can get hit. It's about heart. It's about how many hits you can take and get back up. Like that's just
Right.
motivational city right there. I mean, Rocky and Creed have done a great job of pushing young boxers and all those people just to want to continue, and I really respect that.
Yeah, I think the kicker for me when it comes to the Rocky movies, this guy has a statue. Like the only fictional character that have a statue. Like that's amazing.
Yeah, that's how he's taken such a liking to by America. The people who are the fans of that.
I'll give you guys a fun fact about Creed real quick. So, for Michael B. Jordan to be accepted into the role, and to be accepted kind of into the quote-unquote Rocky family, he actually had to be knocked out by Sylvester Stallone to get accepted.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's like the traditional Italian boxer.
Stallone's like, you can't be in a movie with me unless I knock you out first and you get back up.
But no, I thought that was a fun little fact right there. So, Tommy, why don't you go into your number 3?
All right. Well, I mean, Mama said the alligators are all ordinary because they got all them teeth and no toothbrush. I mean,
you're wrong, Colonel Sanders.
Mama's right. I mean, you can't get much better than The Water Boy. I mean, that movie is Quote City. I mean, Joe Mantegna. Like, come on, I don't think there's enough that I could say about that movie. I mean, Adam Sandler. I mean, his interaction. They got the Big Show on there. How old are you? I'm 32 years old. I mean, like that's just. I mean,
movie all day.
Oh man.
Adam Sandler in the 90s those movies are so well done and so hilarious. But I mean, The Water Boy, I mean, there's so many characters and so many moments where it's just if you have not seen that movie, first, you need to check yourself. And two,
Gatorade.
Exactly. Water sucks.
It really, really sucks.
I mean, The Water Boy is such a great movie, and it's a feel good movie, but it is absolutely hilarious.
I'll never forget the scene where they're at that party after they won their first game, and you see the professor walking down the stairs with
Colonel Sanders is there.
He's like, "Are we still having that test on Friday? Not if you don't want to." Oh my god, that movie is pure comedic gold.
Yeah. I love the fact that it's comedy. Not a lot of sports movies take on comedy. So, yeah, it was outside of the box for sure.
Listen, The Longest Yard, which is also The Longest Yard with also Adam Sandler, the remake, was really, really funny too.
Yeah,
oh man, it's funny. I just quoted Terry Crews with the "It ain't easy being cheesy" the other day. I got the fries that'll cross your eyes. I got the burgers. Man, I just got burgers.
Oh, yeah, burgers, man.
Oh man, that movie was pure gold too.
That's a good one too.
I'm gonna add that as a movie. I'm gonna scratch out Friday Night Lights, and I'm gonna put in The Longest Yard.
The Longest Yard, I dig it. Man, I'm actually scratching one of my movies, so we'll get to that.
Videos, right? Nelly,
yes,
Athletic. Oh my God, that was crazy. And then Michael Irvin. They actually had a Hall of Fame football player in that movie.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's just the amount of people in that movie. I mean, Goldberg, Stone Cold Steve Austin, like you said, Michael Irvin. I mean, it's just
wrestler. I forgot his name, but he's in there.
Oh, Great Khali. Yeah.
Great Khali.
But I mean, you also got Bill Romanowski, former NFL player. I mean, it's just the list goes on. If Burt Reynolds not reprises his role, but comes back from the original one. I mean, the movie just has a star-studded cast.
I think they even have the guy who played Freddy. I don't know, the old man with the long nose. He kind of looks like Freddy a little bit.
Oh yeah.
No, that movie.
Half a star versus superstar.
Yeah.
On pay-per-view.
Hilarious.
That movie is great.
Rock, come on.
Yeah.
Man. I love when they're breaking into the guards locker room and they're replacing the pills with the steroids with the estrogen.
Mm-hmm.
And he's on the sideline. He's like, my nipples feel weird.
Kevin Nash, that's the guy that you're talking about. He's in that movie too. No, I mean, besides that movie being so good and so funny, I mean, you talked about Nelly. Here Comes the Boom, the sound, that song. Man, that song gets me hyped every time I hear it. That is such a good song for that movie.
Yeah, that was a good movie, for sure. So yeah, I had to scratch out Friday Night Lights for that to squeeze that one out.
Last minute change.
Yeah, man, give us some more airtime because we are so.
Man, we
So
could go on forever.
I scratched a movie off of mine. I scratched off Moneyball. Just
I'll take it. I'll
yeah. Look,
snatch that from you.
I wanted to talk about another boxing movie that, in my opinion, is slightly underrated, and that's going to be Southpaw
I was hoping
with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah,
Yes.
Southpaw was good.
As somebody who grew up as a lefty, it just that movie. I don't think as talented as an actor Jake Gyllenhaal is. I don't think I've ever seen him in a better role. I think that role was literally made for him. I think everything about that movie, the storytelling, the strength he faced, just everything is so relatable. The whole thing where his wife or girlfriend got shot in the beginning, like that, just the movie basically just never slowed down. And it wasn't those movies that just has so much that it was overwhelming. It had like the perfect amount of action throughout the whole time, and it was so good. And like, obviously, I don't want to go into too much depth about the movie for people who haven't seen it, but I mean, it's been out for years now, so whatever.
It's not our fault if you haven't.
Yeah, the scene where he tries to go visit her daughter in the camp or whatever she's in, and she wants nothing to do with him.
Yeah.
Like that is so relatable for so many parents, and just like the depression that he faced. Like, as somebody who struggles with depression, I'm able to relate to that. So the movie itself, not only is it phenomenal, the boxing, the technique, the style of boxing that he uses, but the story itself is relatable. Because a lot of times you see these, movies about athletes and about sports that, yeah, you see them on they kind of overcome that challenge, but they're not necessarily as relatable. And so that is one thing that made Southpaw kind of stand above the rest for me.
Yeah, no, for sure. And another one of those movies with a really good soundtrack too. I'm a big Eminem fan, so Phenomenal is a great song. I'm pretty sure it's Forrest Whitaker in that movie. I think that's who it is. Yeah, I mean, great performance by him, but Jake Gyllenhaal is one of my favorite actors. I think he performs well in any type of role that he's in. The new Spider-Man, Nightcrawler, if you haven't seen that, is a fantastic movie. But this one, I mean, just I appreciate people who go out of their way to jump into movie roles and not just perform as an actor in a movie. Like, if you're going to go into an acting role where, I'll talk about Moneyball, but Chris Pratt, like jumping into Guardians of the Galaxy or stuff like that, like, and you get buff and you take that stuff seriously. Like, that is, I'm beyond impressed with people who do that. And for him to like learn real boxing and learn how to actually, do all the stuff, behind the scenes and that get into shape and do all that. It's a very impressive role for him to play and that he pulls off, at a very high quality.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of immersing oneself in a role, right? Let's talk about Will Smith and Ali, man. That performance was one of the best performances like ever. Like, he had the Ali shuffle down, the voice inflection, the everything. Like, he literally just said, "You know what? I'm Muhammad Ali now," and he just walked like he was Muhammad Ali. They had powerful scenes in that movie, like when he was running, and the whole village was just running with him, and they were really like backing him. And this is when he fought so hard against the government to get back into boxing. Man, like, the historical importance of that movie is crazy. You get a real inside look at the nation and how they operate, and you get Malcolm X in that movie. Jamie Foxx had a nice little role. Man, like, I was watching that movie and I said this movie had better won, an award. They had to win something for that movie because it's more than just a sports movie, right? It's a history movie. Man, Muhammad Ali is like one of the biggest icons, so they had to do him right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, Will Smith is easily one of the greatest actors I think we've ever had the privilege of seeing.
Mhm.
And, you know, a lot of people, I don't want to say count him out of that conversation, but they go based off of like when he was young with like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or like the crappy movies like Hancock. Like Hancock wasn't a great movie. It was entertaining for what it was, but it
Independence
wasn't.
Day.
That movie was phenomenal.
I'm just not the biggest fan.
But a movie like I Am Legend,
Yeah.
crushed that role, crushed it.
Yeah.
It's like people just forget that he's had all these amazing roles and that he's done some amazing things, and stuff like Ali and I Am Legend kind of gets swept under the rug because it's overshadowed by some of the worst stuff that he's done. But even in those, they're not bad because of him. They're bad because it was bad storytelling or bad writing.
Yeah.
And like in Hancock, that movie was not good. There was nothing good about it, but he played the role exceptionally well.
I liked it. You know,
I like Hancock.
Yeah, it was nice.
It's entertaining. It's not.
Yeah.
This is how I feel. Okay, I love the Fast and Furious series.
Oh, don't
hold up. Anything after like 3 is more just entertaining than it is actual good storytelling.
Oh, you're hurting me, man.
The first one was
you're hurting me so much. Fast 5 is so good, and 6 and 7 are all good.
They're
not the best.
They're all really great from an entertainment standpoint, but as story writing, they're not that good, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, that's the way they're supposed to be, but
right. But that's what I'm saying is like Fast and the Furious 1, the first one, story writing was incredible. The acting was incredible, like great movie. But that's what I'm saying about Hancock. Hancock is an entertaining movie, doesn't make it a good movie. There's a difference between entertaining and good.
I understand where you're coming from. Like for me with Ali, the director Michael Mann, he made one of my favorite movies of all time, Heat. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's about a group of robbers. Great movie. For those kinds of movies where you're playing a historical figure, it is very tough to find the right actor or actress to play that character. I think Jennifer Hudson is playing Aretha Franklin in an upcoming movie, and I don't think I could think of a better casting than her. Mm-hmm. I mean, somebody who can sing. There's different levels of that stuff of who's not that we're comparing who's the better singer, but it's to get the look down, to get the style down, to get everything down. And for Will Smith, it's one of those movies where it's like the role was born for him. Yeah. Like he was born to play that role. Like he's so good in that movie. And like you said, he gets the shuffle down. I mean, the movie is so well done, and credit to Michael Mann for not only making that movie more into a history kind of movie while also touching on the sports and keeping that as a high priority, but also finding the right actor in Will Smith to play that role.
Yeah, it's the type of casting to where if they've never seen Muhammad Ali,
exactly,
they'll be like, "Yeah, Will Smith's Muhammad Ali." Like that's just who you picture when you think of Muhammad Ali. Like, man, perfect.
No, for sure.
Now, Tommy, you're up next.
Yeah, and I'm gonna steal one of yours. I was kind of hoping that I'd get to talk about this one, and now I'm kind of glad I am. But man, Moneyball is such a great movie. You want to talk about great performances? I mean,
Jonah Hill and Brad Pitt
knocked it
out of the park, and that's not even using that as a pun, a baseball pun.
Yeah,
they literally knocked it out of the park with that.
Yeah,
with that
and
role.
I'm not the biggest fan of either of them. I think they both have some really good movies, but I think I like them a little bit less than other people. But it's so hard to not enjoy their story and the way that they play these characters. And I mean, Chris Pratt, as Scott Hatterberg is another great example. I mean, guy who came and play first base and learns it and becomes successful, at least in the movie, at it. I mean, just being a Tampa Bay Rays fan and knowing what it's like to especially play in a division with the big dogs of New York and Boston. I mean, to see a team like Oakland, make it and be that underdog team, after losing a guy like Johnny Damon, they lost a few other players, but I mean, it's just to see them lose that because they just can't afford it. It's not possible. And for them to replace it with guys who on another team wouldn't even get a chance. And not only do they become successful, they still hold the longest winning streak, in baseball they've reached 20 games. Of course, the 20th game had to be, they had a huge lead, 11-2, and they lost it. And then Scott Hatteberg comes up and hits a walk-off homer. I mean, how much – sometimes they always say, sports write stories themselves. And, I mean, that is, one of the best stories that you can ever write. And the science behind it is still being used today, different shifts and how players are – or how teams are getting these players to play different positions and all that stuff. And I just think if you're a sports fan and you have not seen this movie, you are truly missing out because not only is it a great underdog story, but it really is one of those movies where the science of the sport is discussed, but it's made for a way to where everyone can enjoy it and still learn something about the game that they didn't already know.
Right.
If you're a sports fan, and even if you're not a huge baseball fan, you were doing a disservice to yourself by not seeing Moneyball. That movie, I remember when it first came out, I saw it in theaters. Oh man, obsessed. Great movie, great movie. But I really needed to throw Southpaw in there, which is why I gave Moneyball up. But the next movie I'm going to talk about, actually, Tommy turned me on to, was The Way Back. I've wanted to watch the movie since I saw the trailer for it. And then obviously life kind of got in the way. I kind of forgot about the movie. And then there was a couple of weeks ago, I actually heard a few different people talk about it. And Tommy and I were on the phone and he was like, bro, you got to check out that movie. It's so good. And so what I do, I went out and I rented it on Amazon Prime the next night. Ben Affleck is an incredible actor. He's actually in my number one favorite movie of all time, which is The Town. But
it's an underrated one. Very good choice.
The Way Back is loosely based on a true story as well, from what I remember reading, and it's about it's young troubled kids or teens who are in I believe it's a Catholic school or a camp or something, and they need a coach. The original coach of the team was in a car accident or something, broke his arm or something, couldn't coach. So they went to Ben Affleck's character, who was the star basketball player for that team for a bunch of years when he was younger. But the movie itself is actually more so about his life than it is about basketball. It was just how basketball was the catalyst to help him become a better person. And because it's a recent movie, I'm not going to spoil much. But when you get to the kind of the climax of the movie and the big reveal happens, I was so taken back. I immediately texted Tommy. I was like, what the hell? And he just started laughing. He's like, I told you. So The Way Back was incredible. The writing was great. The storytelling was great. The acting was phenomenal. I thought even the kids that they had playing the basketball players were great. Everything about it. And similar to what we've kind of been the theme we've been talking about, where your team is your family. That was kind of the feel you get from watching that basketball team, and so it was really something else.
No, yeah, for sure. Like you said, I kind of turned you on to it. I remember seeing the trailer and I was like, I have to see this. I'm a huge Ben Affleck fan. I think he's has a lot of great movies to his name. Going off of the whole underdog thing, I mean, he definitely plays a character to where, he's at the end. He's kind of hit rock bottom as hard as you can hit it, and he's still trying to find every way to keep going. And basketball comes back into his life and plays a part in that. And the way that like you said, they tie in the climax of the movie. I just think he does such a great job of being that character that it's just like, man, this guy has been through hell or high water, but you just got to root for him. You just hope that he can find a way to turn his life around. And this movie just does such a great job of portraying that. And like you said, the basketball team, does what they can to fight for him, and like you said, we don't want to spoil the movie, but this is one of the best movies of 2020 for me. I think I think Ben Affleck puts in a standout performance, probably one of the best of his career.
Mm.
So Ty, what would you say is your next one?
Yeah. So my next one is actually Like Mike, one of the best fictional sports.
Childhood movie right there.
Yeah, man. The storytelling is, amazing. They had, America's sweetheart at the time, Lil Bow Wow play, Calvin Cambridge, Morris Chestnut be his, father figure, So the story is, he's a foster kid, and somehow he got graced by, Michael Jordan's shoes, right, and started playing out of his mind. Everybody wants to be Michael Jordan in this time period as well, so of course he has a couple movies. But his ability to kind of push that team forward and win a couple games, a little kid, you know, one of the players had to take care of him, and the fact that he was able to get a family out of the situation was, heartwarming to say the least. So yeah, I love that movie.
All right. So before we call it a night, I do have one more movie that I want us to talk about, and it's going to kind of play off Tommy a little bit more here with this one. So we were talking about Moneyball and how important that movie was with the baseball factor, and he brought up Johnny Damon. He brought up being in a division as himself being a Tampa Bay fan, being in a division with Boston.
Number one.
I'm wondering if he knows what movie I'm going with here.
Oh boy.
So the movie I want to talk about is Fever Pitch.
Fever Pitch. Oh my gosh, I haven't heard the title of that movie in years. Wow, you're really stretching it for that one, aren't you?
So, the reason I want to talk about this movie
is that Jimmy Fallon? Is that the right one? Oh my gosh!
And Drew Barrymore.
Yes. Oh boy.
The reason I want to talk about this movie is because every time we see a sports movie, we never think of the sports movie from the fan's perspective. We always see it from the team's perspective. And Fever Pitch is about Jimmy Fallon, who is this insane, diehard Red Sox fan, season tickets, right? Like,
with everything,
right? No, of course. I mean, I'm the same way, but like, diehard Red Sox fan with the season tickets. He has his walls are covered. I mean, his betting is Red Sox betting and like everything, the whole nine, all Red Sox. And then he meets Drew Barrymore's character and they start a relationship. And she is trying to move on with her life and become, something bigger with her career. And he's just obsessed with the Red Sox. And so, that kind of takes a whole toll on their relationship. And it was at the height, talking about underdogs, when the Red Sox won the 2004 World Series is when this movie was based. And, I have to be honest, like, how do you guys feel? Ty, I don't know if you've actually seen this movie, but I guess my question is, how do you guys feel about a movie like that? Not necessarily the movie itself, but a movie where it's based from the fan's perspective, and even like the storyline. Like I said, this guy's a huge diehard fan for his team, and like his whole life revolves around being a fan for that team, and then the love interest kind of like swoops in and tries to be like, listen, you got to kind of cut that out a little bit, and so, and like one of the most tragic things was. During this time, the Red Sox were down in the ALCS. The Red Sox were down 3-0 against the Yankees, and they ended up coming back and winning the whole thing. And he missed I believe it was game 4 or game 5, where the Red Sox won one of the games after being down 3-0, and because he was with his girlfriend, and it like put him in some sort of way. So like, how do you guys feel about more movies or sports movies being centered around the fans?
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't watched the movie, but I love the concept because it allows us as fans to kind of place ourselves in the movie, right? So I love that part of filming and storytelling. You can take it over.
Yeah. I think there's a big problem when it comes. I mean, even in movies now, it's really hard to kind of set yourself apart and make something that's different from what everybody else has seen. And I mean, with sports movies especially, we see a lot of the true stories and stuff, and not which is fine. Not that there's a problem with having true stories, but movies like The Way Back, with how different it is from a lot of those underdog movies. One of my favorite movies that I have listed here, Draft Day. You get the eyes, from behind, inside the NFL office. You get to see what it's like to be, a general manager of a team making, the biggest decision for a team. Obviously, that movie's not based on anything, but I just think, having a movie like that to where, like you said, you get that fan perspective, and we are those fans, like I got the Broncos Super Bowl Blu-ray. I bought that day one. Like I have every jersey of Tim Tebow's except the Patriots jersey, man. Like that's just, we're all fans at heart, and to go through life experiences like that to where, you can be a fan, but at a point, you gotta not grow up. That's not the right word, but it's a good story to have it, from the fans' perspective, because like you said, we just don't see that a lot.
For sure.
No, I get it. So that's why I wanted to talk about that. But fun fact real quick, Ryan Stern was actually a quote unquote extra in Draft Day. He was at the NFL draft, and they made him sign the waiver saying, hey, or the release form saying, hey, there's a chance you will be in this movie, just as is. And I guess there's a scene where like him and his friends are kind of like watching this whatever, and they like pan over, and like if he pauses it, you can point him out, which I think is pretty cool. So
that is cool.
Shout out to Ryan Stern. Honorable mention movie that I talked about this with Randy a little bit earlier, and I know Ryan, the movie Rudy. That movie is.
You're gonna dislike me for.
You don't like that movie, do you?
I'm not the biggest fan.
All right, we won't get into that. We will leave the disappointment for next time.
Yeah, save for next week.
So next week we are gonna do a similar style show. We are gonna do sports video games. That. I mean, how many Madden games are different than the last one? But we are going to do sports video games. We are going to be talking about our favorite sports video games that we have that we've played. And if you guys want, we can take it a step further, and we can actually talk about some esports. Some games like League of Legends or Call of Duty that we see tournaments for on ESPN and stuff like that. Overwatch. So, again, guys, thank you again, obviously, for coming on.
It's always a pleasure. It's always
absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Mama got all them teeth, but ain't no toothbrush.
But until next time, guys, stay safe. And for everybody watching, thank you. Don't forget to check out Back Sports page on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Check out all the great shows that are airing. We have the Hardwood Huddle with Randy and Bill. We have, obviously, the Trifecta. You guys should be watching that right now. We have the Zero Tech podcast, which is kind of on delay right now because Ryan Stern just recently had a baby boy. We have Off Topic with Randy Zelia. There are countless other shows that we have.
Deep Six Wrestling podcast. Let me throw that out there with Wayne and Randy and myself as well.
And then you have the Exit Velo podcast with the baseball crew. So again, guys, thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys next week.